How's everybody this morning?
Good.
Wonderful, fantastic. Okay, that's not enthusiastic enough for me. It's not 8 in the morning anymore. Good morning, how are y'all?
We're doing great. Thank you so much. How are you doing?
Are you excited to be here?
Yes,
Glad to
ma'am.
be out of school?
Yes,
Or
ma'am.
just ready for lunch? Spring break is next week, correct? Yes. Sun and toes in the sand. Okay, let me tell you. Let me tell you a little bit about me. I'm StephanieDickert, and I own a company called Stewardship for Life. I probably am the only person today that's not a Shaw employee. And 4 years ago, they asked me if I was willing to do this, and I said, sure. How much time do I have? They said, well, you'll basically have 30 minutes. This is normally a 2 to 2.5 hour class. So, yes, I was born in the South, but I do not speak slowly. We're going to go through this at a rather rapid pace, and I'm going to try to give you as much information on how to know what you need to live on and how to address money and your goals and your vision all at the same time. Okay? Y'all willing to do that? Now, I need 2 people to help me that have phones with calculators who can do some numbers for me in a few minutes. Who wants to do that? Sweet. Okay. Now, for doing that, y'all get a special gift. Yes. T-shirt, bag, bands. Yay. Which? T-shirt. T-shirt. I can get you a T-shirt. You want a T-shirt? All right. Hey, I made it. It's pretty good. Okay, so I wrote a program 2001 called Money 101. When you get to college, you take English 101, Science 101. You get it. That's where it came from. I'm going to see if I have a trend today. What do y'all spend the most amount of money on?
Girlfriends.
Girlfriends. Now that's the first time I've heard that. No. Let me tell you what the last class said. There was a gentleman in the last class who said that he felt like that his girlfriend, when they went out, she should pay for her own stuff.
That's like the half and half.
That's what he said, half and half. So to hear you say that, that's more what we would now call old school. Not that there's anything wrong with either way, but at any rate, the number one thing I'm hearing is food. And I ask this question every class. Do your parents not feed you?
No. Yes, they do.
My dad does. But does he put groceries in the house? Yeah, he does that. Okay. Hello. Hello. How are you both? Good. So, if I'm hearing you, it's not that your parents don't have food in the house, y'all just don't eat what they put in the house. Is that what I'm hearing? No. There's no food in the house. All right, so I'm hearing you say there may be food in the house, there may not be food in the house, but if there's food in the house, it requires you to do something, and it's far easier to get in the car and drive to a restaurant or fast food of some sort and say, I would like, and they hand it to you. Is that what I'm hearing? Yes. Okay. So, do you know of ways for you to save on the things you spend the most amount of money on? That's not, no, y'all beat me to it. I was about to say, the incorrect answer is the dollar menu. That doesn't count. Those places that have dollar menus are serving you a food-like substance, but it is not food.
Is that somewhere where your friends
Now you're thinking.
Hey, I went to cook up the other day, used my friend's discount, only had to pay like $1.84 for food.
Sweet.
I was like, sweet.
You gotta put it. Now, how many of you all know what Groupon is?
Especially $1.84 for all that food.
Yeah, pay you to shop.
How many of you know what Living Social is?
I'm big on
Okay, these are apps that you can put on your phone that will give you discounted rates to do different things. For instance, Poblanos is on Groupon this morning. It's a restaurant in Chattanooga. You can get $20 of food for $10. That voucher shows up on your phone, you go order food, you turn your phone around, they scan it, and it's basically like buying a gift card for half off.
it.
Okay? So you'll see things like when y'all, how many of y'all have, hi, my name is Stephanie and I have a Starbucks addiction? Okay, so they'll put Starbucks on there from time to time where you'll get a $10 gift card for $5, and they go like that. So I'm saying this to you to give you ideas of ways to save. You're talking about spending money on your girlfriend. They have flowers, edible arrangements, jewelry, all kinds of stuff on there for way less than what you would pay for it if you went to the mall and got it. So I want you thinking outside the box. How can I do this and save money? When I first started at college, I went to Dalton, and there was a girl who lived down the street from me, and we took turns driving to school so that we saved money on gas. We weren't both putting $20 into our gas tank every other day to get us back and forth to school. That's what I'm talking about. I want you thinking about ways to save. Now, let me say this. I do not believe that you should do anything that causes you to have 8 million rolls of toilet paper in your home that it will take you 20 years to use.
My dad does that.
The extreme couponing?
Not couponing, just he just buys in bulk.
Well, buying in bulk is different. What I'm talking about is there are people who will do what they call extreme couponing. So you'll go to the grocery store and say you have $500 worth of groceries in your cart. And it may be stuff that you use, but a lot of time it's stuff that you don't use, but in our mind we're thinking we're saving money, so we need to do it. So you may have $500 worth of stuff and you end up paying $62 for that stuff. If it's all stuff that you use and are going to use, fine, do it. But don't start hoarding stuff just because it's on sale. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, because you're creating something that's going to haunt you in the future, trust me. Okay, can you tell me what you're financially afraid of? Debt.
Student loan.
Debt you cannot pay back.
Loans.
So how would you prevent that?
Don't get yourself into something you can't get yourself out of.
Correct. What would you consider a bad choice?
Getting a credit card.
Buying a brand new car.
Buying things.
Wait,
on
I'll
credit,
come
you
back
can't pay
to
back.
that in a second. Why do you think a credit card is a bad decision?
Maxes out easily.
It does max out easily if you're not disciplined. But credit is like money. In and of itself, it's not a bad thing. It's how you use it. Debt in and of itself is not a bad thing as long as it's reasonable. By that I mean, if you're making $1 million a year, do you think a $3,000 a month house payment is unreasonable?
No, not too bad.
Okay, if you're making $8 an hour, ladies, do you think you should go buy a pair of Jimmy Choos? No. Gentlemen, do y'all know who Jimmy Choo is? Do you know what I'm talking about? Jimmy Choo. How many of y'all ever watched Carrie in Sex and the City? The stilettos that she wears? Those are Jimmy Choos. They start at $500. Yeah. Okay. So again, what is a bad choice right now may not be a bad choice to you later. Okay? So when you think about money, you have to think about money relative to where you are. Again, if you're making $1 million a year, a $3,000 a month house payment isn't anything. But if you're making $12,000 a year and you lay down $1,200 for a pair of shoes, somebody's going to ask you where your priorities are. Okay? See what I'm saying? All right. Money basics. You all go to one of the 3 best high schools. Well, you go to school in a county that's one of the best in our state. Y'all are all able to read and write, and I'm not going to read all this to you. I'm going to point out a couple of things. One, if you leave here today with nothing else, this is the most important thing you can do for yourself. Week you're on campus, there are going to be people there from Bank of America, Citibank, saying, hey, we'll give you 2 Fandango movie tickets if you guys will sign up for our credit card. Or we'll give you a 12-inch Subway sandwich for free if you'll sign up for our credit card. And again, credit in and of itself innately is not bad. It's how you use it. I'm going to give you some hard and fast rules where credit's concerned. If you have a credit card, do not spend more than 80% of whatever your balance is. So if it's $1,000, you don't charge more than $800 at a time. The reason being, if you go over that, they deem you not to be able to handle your credit, and that negatively affects your credit score. Okay? Also, don't charge something on it and pay it back off when the bill comes. What they're looking for is discipline. Are you going to pay that payment every month on time each month until you pay the balance in full? They require that you pay a certain percentage, and it depends on the credit card. Sometimes it's 1% of the outstanding balance, sometimes it's 1.5%, sometimes it's 2% of the outstanding balance. What I tell people is, if you borrow $500 on your credit card to go do whatever, say you buy an airline ticket because you want to fly to see your friend who's at, UCLA or whatever. You need to take 2 or 3, 5 months, however long you want to do, to pay that back, to show them that you're responsible with it. Does that make sense? Okay. And how many of y'all know what Credit Karma is? How many of y'all have heard of that app? Okay. The other question I get a lot is, what credit card should I get? I don't know. What are you looking for in one? When I worked for AmSouth for 13 years. When I was there, my credit card that I had gave me miles and points when I bought an airline ticket and when I stayed in a hotel. Now, that's not as big a deal to me as getting one that has the best interest rate and the lowest annual fee. So you'll need to decide that. And Credit Karma will ask you some questions, and it'll tell you which credit cards are appropriate to apply for based on your criteria. Now, let me finish what I just said with this statement. Don't you all leave out of here and go home and tell your parents that I said all of y'all needed a credit card. That's not what I said. I'm giving you an education. If you're going to have credit, how you need to handle it. Everybody get me? So none of y'all are going to go home and tell your parents that, correct?
Yep.
Okay. All right. And if you'll handle money right from the beginning, you will always be wealthy. I know people who have not graduated from high school who have lots of zeros after their net worth. They're worth more than some people who have gone to school and got a PhD. And I'm saying that to say that you guys, education is important, but your gift is what's going to drive you. Do you understand that? Okay. Money is 100% about discipline. If you will create a budget every month, and if you will live by that budget, if you will put money in its home every month where it's supposed to, you'll never lack for anything. How many of you have ever gone to the mall with a $20 bill in your hand and come home and had 2 left and go, what did I just spend that on? Because it didn't have a home. Now, we do have a category on the budget, and we'll get to that in a minute, called mad money. And it's called that for a reason. It's mad. It can do anything. And you need to give yourself mad money out of each of your paychecks, or at least once a month, that you don't have to give an account for. It doesn't matter if you leave and go to the mall with it and you only come back with $2 and you're not really sure what you spent on it. It was your money to do with what you wanted to, okay? All right. Vision. Most, let me say it this way. Thomas Jefferson said, no, it wasn't Thomas Jefferson, it was Ben Franklin, said when he invented the light bulb that there was he figured out 2,000 ways how not to invent a light bulb before he got it right. But what if he'd stopped after he failed the first time? We probably would all still be sitting by candlelight, which wouldn't be very good for us. He had a vision for what he wanted in his life. And you all need that as well. How many of you already write in a journal on a regular basis? Anybody? Good job. You get a t-shirt. Just because that's cool. So, why is that important? In the classes earlier, I said that it was important to journal because you will be at different places in life and it will show you your progression. And the example I gave, maybe you're in a class with a teacher that you don't really care for, and maybe you just go home one afternoon and you write down, I don't like so-and-so teacher because of such and such. And 5 years from now, you may flip back through that journal and go, yeah, I remember that. That class was really hard for me, and I really didn't feel like that the teacher appreciated me or liked me or whatever. But that teacher taught me blah, blah, blah. It will also show you how emotions change over time. And what you think is really important now may not be important in 2 years. It might not even be important next week. But it's good for you to be able to get those emotions and feelings down on paper because it helps you deal with things better, okay? And don't ever be afraid to dream. All right. I'm sure all of you all thought that when you graduated from college that your report card was gone forever, right? No more grades, no more having to cram for an exam, but there's still a report card. When you go to borrow money, for anything, house, car, doesn't matter. They're going to look at your net worth. Now, what is net worth made up of? It's your assets, what you own, things of value, cars, houses, bank accounts, retirement accounts, minus what you owe on those cars and or houses and or credit cards, equals your equity or your net worth. Now, how many of y'all know who Warren Buffett is? Is he worth a little bit of money or a lot of money?
A lot better.
So he's got quite a few zeros after his name, wouldn't you say? So the higher this number is, the more A's you're getting on your report card. Does that make sense? Okay. So here's an example. Say you have a house that's worth $150,000 and you have a mortgage on that house for $50,000. Your equity in it is $100,000. That's the equity in the house. Your equity or your net worth would be this $100,000 plus $100,000 that you have in a retirement account, $50,000 you have in a savings account, and $20,000 you have in your checking account, which gives you a total net worth of
$170,000.
170 plus, so $270,000. Do y'all see how I got that? Okay. Now, we're going to very quickly go through how to create a budget to know what you need to live on. All right? Now, we're going to kind of assume some things. I need somebody to tell me what average number of hours you work in a week. In a week? Yeah. 32?
40.
Okay. Now, we're going to assume that you make $10 an hour.
I will.
Yeah, I know. But we're going to assume that because it's going to make the math easier for me. Okay. Now, who were the two people who raised their hand that they were going to do? Okay, now's when I need you to get your phones out. All right. One of you take 320 times 52.
16,603.
Okay. The other one of you divide 16,640 by 12.
1,386.66.
All right, we're gonna round it to make it even. Okay, so let me tell you what I just did. There are 52 weeks in a year.
Yep.
So your annual salary is 16,640. We're gonna do the budget based on a month, and there are 12 of those. So we're roughly making $1,386 a month. Is that what you're going home with? Why? Do y'all know how to get from this number to what you actually take home?
Don't they take 20%?
It's close. You're
It's like
very,
18 or,
you're very
I
close.
think it's 18.
All right, so the things that come out of your check are FICA, which is also known as Social Security. That's 6.2% of your check. Then you have Medicare, and that's 1.45%. Your federal could be anywhere between 10 and 30%, and we're gonna assume 15. And then the state of Georgia, you pay 6% to. Now, I need one of the two of you to add up those four taxes for me and tell me what they total.
Our FICA doesn't go towards, it isn't really going towards our social security. at the
It's
moment,
going
is it?
into
It's
the pool.
almost 27%.
Yeah, it's 28.65. Okay, now, so somebody multiply 28.65 times 1,386 and tell me what it comes out to.
39,708.9.
All right, let me look at it. So it's $397. I moved the decimal.
Okay.
All right, now subtract 397 from 1,386 and tell me what we have left.
Alright.
$989.
989. Okay, so this is what we have to live on.
But just subtract that.
Okay? Remember what I said earlier about it's most important what you pay yourself. There's also another rule that says you have to be 21 to participate in like a 401k or a true retirement plan. So until you all reach that age, you can contribute to an IRA, which you can get at a bank, a brokerage house, Scottrade, E-Trade, any of those places you can do that, okay? Now, I put 3%. It's not so much the percentage. Remember what I said, money's 100% about discipline? It's more about you doing it every time you get paid than how much you're putting in it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so somebody tell me what 3% of $989 is. Say, 989 times 3. Okay, so we're gonna do $29. Okay, savings. I say 10%, and here's why. You need to build an emergency fund. If your car is paid for and you're bebopping along, you're doing maintenance on it, and that's covered in your car monthly costs, and your transmission goes out, you don't want to go borrow money to replace the transmission. You want to have an emergency fund there for that, okay? All right, so 10% of $989 would be $99. Okay. Giving, let's talk about that for a second. I do 10%, but I also give of my time. You all will grow further as individuals if you will give of yourself. I don't care if it's going to Ronald McDonald House in Chattanooga and helping them cook meals for the families that are there. Or if it's going down and helping Ringgold United Methodist with Nourish Catoosa put snacks in a bag that goes home with a kid that may be their only food they get all weekend. It will help you gain perspective for society and people around you and begin to help you see how truly blessed you are. Because there's always somebody who's not as fortunate as you are. So, I'm going to put another $99 here. Somebody tell me what they spend on a car payment.
I don't know. Oh, 387.
387. Somebody tell me what they spend on fuel in a month.
Yeah,
30 a week, yeah, so 120. Okay. What's your insurance a month?
I pay, I usually pay.
Is that what you're paying now?
155
What are you driving?
Okay, somebody tell me what you spend on a cell phone. Okay,
I'll roll with it.
now I've skipped 2. All right, I need one of my 2 people with the calculator to take 989 and subtract all the numbers you see in this column, and tell me what we have left. What number? Okay. Now, let me tell you what that means. Your budget isn't balanced. You got more outgo than you have income. Now, let me tell you what you shouldn't do. You should not reduce these 2 numbers. These 2 should stay constant because you're preparing for the future. This is where you need to see, where do I need to make some adjustments? My gut would be the car payment's too high for what you're making. Your insurance is too high for what you're making. Well, but see, here's the bad thing. We talk about women spend more money on clothes because they will market to us that way. Guys spend more money on insurance because they believe that you're more unsafe drivers than women. So my point in us going through this exercise, excuse me, is for you guys to get an idea of you're going to need to spend money on certain things. And you may have things that you spend money on I haven't listed here. But every dollar that is in here needs to be put somewhere here. It needs a home. 3% of it's going to retirement. 10% is going to savings. And 10% is going to giving. So you need to make sure that you've spent every dollar you're going to make on paper before you ever get that paycheck, okay? The goal is to start with this and this be 0, and there be money allocated in each of these categories, okay? The one other thing I will tell you, when you all get back to school, your work-based learning teacher can get you my email address, and I have this in an Excel spreadsheet that you can use, okay? You don't have to do it on paper. I wanted us to do it on paper because I want you to understand how you get the numbers and how to get from point A to point B, okay? Now, I want to spend the last couple of minutes we have talking about dreams, vision, and goals, okay? In 2001, I was in a bookstore in Atlanta and I found this book. It's not in publication anymore. But it's called The Wish Book, and it has tabs in it that, like one of them says anatomical, and I put a picture of a runner in it. Because that's what I wanted. In fact, I wrote how much I wanted to weigh and what I wanted my body mass index to be. And then under vacation, I put pictures of places I want to visit. And then under further adventures, I was looking in a magazine one day, and I've always been fascinated with English estates, probably because my heritage comes from England. Our family's from 2 hamlets over from where Shakespeare grew up. And they have formal gardens and, the whole brick house, the whole gamut. And so this house, I absolutely love the picture of this house, and it's it says a great value at $1.85 million. I don't live in it yet. I don't live in it yet, but I'm also still alive, so that's still on my bucket list. And then I put pictures of pretty rings that I happen to like, because at that time I was not married.
Do you have money saved for that?
For this? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have money in my budget every month that goes towards this. Maybe not this exact house, because it may not be on the market at the time. Right now, I have enough money saved for a down payment to buy a house condo on the beach. That's my next purchase. And I'll rent it out except for the weeks of the year that I want to use it. And by the time I'm ready to retire, it'll be paid for.
So how are you gonna get you a house if you do that?
I already have a house.
I'm talking about one of those houses.
Oh, well, the money I'll make off the beach condo, once it's paid off, I can then turn around and put it towards that house. Okay, so let's talk about goals for a second. I don't remember when this book was published, but there's a gentleman by the name of John Goddard, Goddard. Y'all can Google him. On one rainy afternoon, an inspired 15-year-old boy named John Goddard sat down at the kitchen table in Los Angeles and wrote 3 words at the top of a yellow pad: My Life List. Under that heading, he wrote 127 goals. Since then, he's completed 108. Now, I'm not sure if he's still alive. I should have Googled that this morning to see if he is, but I want to read you some of the goals this man had. The ones I'm going to read you are goals he accomplished, okay? All right. He wanted to explore the Nile, the Amazon, the Congo, and the Colorado River. He wanted to study primitive cultures in the Congo, New Guinea, Brazil, Borneo, Australia, Kenya. He wanted to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, Mount Ararat, Mount Kenya, the Matterhorn, Mount Rainier. He wanted to photograph Victoria Falls, Yosemite Falls, Niagara Falls, explore underwater coral reefs of Florida, the Great Barrier Reef of Australia, explore the Okefenokee and the Everglades, visit the North and South Poles, the Great Wall of China, the Panama and Suez Canals, Vatican City, and he saw the Pope. He wanted to accomplish becoming an Eagle Scout, dive in a submarine, land and take off of an aircraft carrier, fly in a hot air balloon, a blimp, and a glider. He wanted to skin dive 40 feet, hold his breath for 2.5 minutes underwater, play the flute and a violin, type 50 words a minute, weigh 175 pounds, perform 200 sit-ups and 20 pull-ups, learn French, Spanish, and Arabic, be familiar with the compositions of Bach, Beethoven, and a whole list of other composers. Visit a movie studio, milk a poisonous snake. He was bitten by a diamondback during the photo session. He wanted to watch a firewalking seminar, marry and have children. He has 5, and circumnavigate the globe, and he did it 4 times.
He needs to run through credit all that.
Yes,
I have a question, what does he do to make money?
that I don't know. Google
Wrote a
it.
book.
Yeah. But my point in saying this is, in with your question, I would say in today, he could be very successful as a blog writer with all the things that he's done. So my point in reading this to you is, scientists tell us that we are 50% more likely to see something come to pass if we write it down. In 2015, I sat down and wrote a book because it was on my list to do, and it had been on my list since I was y'all's age. And I had a friend who started a publishing company, and she said, I can have you published in 26 weeks. And I said, but I don't have the time. And she said, as long as you say you don't have the time, this has been on your life list for how long? And as long as you say I don't have the time, it's not going to happen. So what did I do? I sat down, wrote out an outline, and in about 4 weeks, every Tuesday, I sat at Starbucks in Brainerd with my earbuds in front of my laptop typing. And the next thing I know, I get a box in the mail, and here are my books. So I'm saying that to say I wrote that down, which gave me a 50% better chance of seeing it happen because I wrote it down. But then I had to put action to what I wrote down. And it started as a thought. Hey, I think I might like to write. And it went from that to saying, hey, I'd like to write a book someday. And I wrote it down. And then I kept saying it. And I said it to enough people that finally one day, one of the people in my tribe said, you need to sit down and write that book. I don't have time. Well, now you're giving me excuses, really. sit down, write the book. Every one of you has the ability to be Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, the Ben Franklin of our generation. The thing is, you've got to be willing to sit down, write those things down, and then move in a direction to make them come to pass. I had a girl that came to see me for the first time. She was 55. She'd never owned her own home. And before she retired, she wanted to buy a home. 2 years later, I got to go to her housewarming party. She had it within her. You know, there's a line from The Wizard of Oz that the witch says to Dorothy, "My dear, you've had it in you all the time." You do. You just need the skills to get you from point A to point B. And if I've done my job today, y'all now have more skills than you had when you walked through that door to be able to do that. Okay, any questions? Yes?
It's Thomas Edison.
Thomas Edison, yes.
I
Thank
didn't
you,
want
not
you-
Ben
I didn't want
Franklin.
you to go
No,
rest the day,
No,
tell
no,
everybody
no,
that.
yeah, because I would have and gone, wait, it wasn't, it was Thomas Edison. I think Ben Franklin because I think of electricity knowing that it's Thomas Edison. Yes? Money. Yes,
Did you sell a lot?
yes. Now you can too.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I actually do.
So that's my life journey so far. Yeah, and that picture's old. Okay, any more questions?
Nope.
How many of y'all are gonna put this to practice? Honestly,
Have you ever done the envelope thing?
yes, yes, yes. It works.
Yeah.
Now, in the book, there is a matrix in there for how to save in a year. You know I've never eaten it. Yeah, 52 week savings challenge. So you save $1 a day for 52 days.
Do I just get $52?
No, look how much you end up with at the end of the year.
I didn't know it was a year span.
Yep.
I'm still very,
So on Thursday, $6, Monday, $2.
so is this the amount I end up with?
Yes.
Yes. If you do that every day,
1,378?
that includes interest. One last tidbit I will tell you. Tell me your name.
Bailey.
Bailey. Bailey asked me about the envelope system that Dave Ramsey does. One thing I didn't tell you all about retirement savings, Dave Ramsey has a story that he tells about two people. One started planning for saving for retirement when they were 21. They put money back for 10 years. So from 21 to 31, they put money in their retirement plan and they stopped. So for 10 years. The second one waited 2 years to start investing in his retirement. This person put in for 10 years and never contributed another dime, just the interest and, well, compound interest that the retirement plan made. By the time he retired, he had over $1 million.
I think it was like a $600,000 difference.
Yes, this person started contributing like a year or 2 years later and never caught up to this person. And they had to contribute until they retired. And this person only did it for 10 years. So the moral of that story is do it as soon as you can, and you won't be doing it trying to play catch up. I know people that are my age who've never saved a dime for retirement. And they're looking at 20 years left to work, and they're looking at a much bigger number than this to try to put back so that they've got money to retire on. Because what you were asking me earlier about Social Security, chances are you'll never see a dime of this money that's coming out of your check every week.
Because we have to pay for the
Yep. Yep, basically. Okay, no more questions? I think you guys are able to, yeah. Go.
I want to view our house so far.
Oh my goodness, sorry.
I bet you this one.